Nyiraimbanda was a gentle young woman who moved through life with quiet steps and a peaceful heart. She lived in Karamo Plains, a warm desert-edge town full of color, noise, and strong personalities, yet she always carried a calm presence that made people feel safe around her. She believed deeply that even when everything looked dark, a small light could still appear. Her hope never shook, no matter how heavy problems became. She didn't talk much, but her actions showed her inner strength, steady, patient, and full of silent courage. Her older sister Tawaira was the complete opposite. She spoke loud, laughed strong, and argued without fear. She loved her sister, but she never understood Nirai's faith. Whenever Nirai talked about trusting prayer, Tawaira rolled her eyes and called it something only children rely on. Their house often echoed with their different beliefs, yet their bond remained. Tawaira protected Nirai, and Nirai supported her in the softest ways. Everything changed when Tawaira's dream suddenly collapsed. She had waited for a job for many years, working small tasks and building experience, but the opportunity slipped away at the last moment. The rejection hit her harder than she expected. Bills piled up, their savings dropped, and fear began to fill every corner of her mind. Nirai reached out gently and offered to pray for her, but Tawaira laughed it off, hiding the pain she didn't want anyone to notice. Before dawn the next morning, Nirai climbed to their rooftop. The town was still asleep, and the cool desert breeze brushed against her face. She knelt in her usual corner and spoke softly, asking for something impossible yet simple, an unseen door to open for her sister. She didn't look for signs, she just believed. The following afternoon, Tawaira received a call that left her speechless. A community center she had once volunteered at wanted her to take a full-time leadership role. They praised her old work and explained that new funding had appeared that same morning. She rushed home shaking with disbelief, asking Nirai what happened. Nirai only smiled and said she gave love the way she knew best. Tawaira finally understood, tears falling as she whispered her gratitude. In that moment, her doubt melted. Soon the whole town heard the story, and Nirai became a quiet symbol of hope, proof that gentle hearts can bring unexpected miracles. Nyiraimbanda was everything her younger sister was not. She spoke with fire, moved with confidence, and never hid how she felt. People in Karamo Plains heard her before they saw her. She argued, joked, and challenged anyone who disagreed with her. But the one thing she never accepted was Nirai's quiet belief in prayer. Whenever Nirai mentioned trusting something she could not see, Tawaira laughed loudly and called it childish, insisting that life only changed when you pushed hard, fought strong, and relied on your own power. She didn't mean to hurt her sister, but her sharp words often cut deep without her noticing. Still, the two sisters cared for each other more than they admitted. Their bond was full of small fights that ended with shared food, long arguments that faded into gentle conversations, and teasing moments that slowly softened into smiles. Tawaira's loud spirit balanced Nirai's gentle nature, and Nirai's calm presence balanced Tawaira's restless energy. Even when they disagreed about almost everything, they still protected each other fiercely. Their home felt like two different worlds under the same roof, always clashing but never breaking apart. When Tawaira teased Nirai about prayer, Nirai never defended herself. She simply listened and stayed quiet, because she understood her sister's fear hidden behind the jokes. Tawaira wanted control over her life. She wanted results she could see and touch. Anything invisible scared her, though she never admitted it. And Nirai, with her soft voice and patient heart, never pushed her beliefs on anyone. She simply lived her truth, trusting that kindness spoke louder than arguments. Their daily life was a dance of contrast. Tawaira bursting into the room with strong opinions, Nirai folding clothes quietly in the corner, Tawaira complaining loudly about small problems, Nirai offering gentle solutions, Tawaira mocking her sister's faith, Nirai responding with steady love. Friends often wondered how two people so different could stay so close. But the sisters knew their connection ran deeper than their disagreements. Even in moments of tension, there was always love hiding underneath. Tawaira's mockery was never born from hate. It came from fear of disappointment. Nirai's silence was never weakness. It came from strength she carried in her heart. Their relationship was a mix of storms and sunshine, making their bond unforgettable and full of emotion. One bold voice and one quiet soul, tied together by something stronger than their differences. Tawira had waited for that one job for so many years that it felt like her whole future depended on it. She had trained, volunteered, collected certificates, and told everyone she would finally get her chance. But when the final message arrived, everything she hoped for slipped away in one short sentence. She stared at the rejection, her hands shaking, her chest tight. All the strength she usually showed in front of others suddenly felt thin and useless. The timing was terrible. Their rent was already close, their small savings had dropped to almost nothing, and people around town had expected her to succeed this time. Losing that chance made her feel like her whole world was collapsing at once. She walked around the house trying to act normal, but Nurai could see the pain sitting heavy in her eyes. Tawira tried to laugh it off, tried to pretend she didn't care, but her voice cracked whenever she spoke. She wanted to scream, cry, or disappear, but instead she kept pacing, blaming herself, blaming the world, blaming luck, anything to avoid admitting how much it hurt. The pressure of failing after so many attempts made her feel embarrassed. She imagined people whispering about her, judging her, saying she bragged too early. For someone as proud as Tawira, this fear cut deeper than the rejection itself. When Nurai gently approached her, offering a soft smile and a few comforting words, Tawira brushed her off. And when her sister quietly said she wanted to pray for her, Tawira forced a laugh that sounded too loud, too sharp. She called it unnecessary, saying it wouldn't change anything. But the truth was different. Deep inside, she felt fragile, scared, and lonely. She didn't know how to handle the weight she was carrying, so she hid behind her bold voice. She didn't want to break down in front of anyone, not even the sister who always stood by her. As the day went on, the fear only grew. Every small sound made her jump. Every thought made her chest tighten. She didn't know what tomorrow would look like. She didn't know how they would survive the next month. And even though she laughed at Nurai's offer, a tiny part of her wished she could believe in something, anything, that might lift her from the storm she was drowning in. Long before the sun touched the sky, Nurai opened her eyes. The house was silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy after a painful day. She remembered how Tawira had mocked her, how she had laughed loudly to hide the fear in her heart. But Nurai didn't feel upset. She understood her sister better than anyone. She knew that when Tawira laughed the hardest, it usually meant she was hurting the most. So, without making a sound, she wrapped a light cloth around her shoulders and climbed up the narrow steps to their rooftop. The air was cool, and the early morning breeze carried the soft scent of sand. From up there, the whole town of Karamo Plains looked peaceful. Tiny lights fading into the rising glow, clay roofs glowing softly, and the desert stretching out like a quiet sea. Nurai walked to the small corner she had used for years, a corner smooth from her daily kneeling. She settled there, folding her hands gently, her eyes soft with worry and love. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't use fancy words. She simply let her heart speak. She thought about Tawira's pain, her strength, her loud voice that hid so many fears. She thought about the rejection that shattered her spirit, about the way she tried to stay strong even when she was falling apart inside. Nurai whispered the one thing she believed could truly help, something simple yet full of meaning. She asked for a path her sister couldn't see, a chance hidden somewhere in the world that was waiting for the right moment to open. As she prayed, a warm calmness spread through her chest. She felt no anger about the mocking, no frustration about being misunderstood. She only felt love, deep and steady. She trusted that every quiet word she spoke would travel farther than she could imagine. She stayed there until the first rays of sunlight touched the rooftops, coloring the clay walls gold. To her, it felt like a sign that the world was already shifting in ways she couldn't explain. When she finally stood up, she looked over the sandy city with gentle hope. She didn't know how help would come, or when it would arrive. She only believed that something unseen was moving, preparing the answer her sister needed. And even though Tawira didn't believe in her prayer, Nurai carried enough faith for both of them, trusting that miracles often begin in silence before anyone notices them. The next afternoon, while Tawira was sitting on the edge of her bed trying to figure out what to do next, her phone suddenly rang. She almost ignored it, thinking it was another reminder about bills, but something made her pick it up. The voice on the other end belonged to someone she hadn't spoken to in a long time. One of the coordinators from the community center where she used to volunteer years ago. Tawira sat up straight, surprised they even remembered her. The coordinator sounded excited, almost breathless, as if something unexpected had happened on their side too. They told her that a new opportunity had opened that morning, completely out of the blue. The center had received fresh funding they never expected, and because of that, they were expanding their team. They said her name came up first because everyone still talked about the work she had done long ago. They explained how her energy, leadership style, and dedication had left a strong mark. Tawaira listened quietly, her heart racing faster with every word. She couldn't believe they were offering her a full-time leadership position. After all the closed doors she had faced, after all the disappointment she had carried, she tried to ask questions, thinking maybe she misheard something, but the coordinator kept praising her past efforts. They reminded her of the events she organized, the kids she helped, and how the team always admired her way of motivating people. They said it felt like the timing was perfect, like everything had fallen into place overnight. Tawaira felt her throat tighten when they mentioned the funding, miraculously open this morning. That word echoed in her mind, shaking her more than she expected. The more they spoke, the more she realized this wasn't a small offer. It was a life-changing opportunity, stable pay, a respected role, and a chance to rebuild her confidence. As the call continued, her eyes filled with tears she didn't want to admit were there. It felt like someone had pulled her out of a deep hole she couldn't climb out of on her own. When the call ended, she just sat there in silence, the phone still in her hand, feeling as if the world had suddenly shifted in her favor. Her heart pounded with disbelief and relief. After all the failures, after all the fear, something new had finally opened for her. A door she never even knew existed until that very moment. Tawaira hurried home as fast as she could, her heart pounding faster than her footsteps. She pushed open the door with shaking hands, almost tripping as she entered. Her face was full of emotion, shock, joy, confusion, and something softer that she hadn't felt in a long time. Only a few hours earlier she had been lost, crushed by rejection and fear. Now everything looked different. Everything felt different. She couldn't understand how her whole life had shifted in a single afternoon. She needed answers, and she knew exactly who she wanted to talk to. Mirai was sitting near the window, sewing quietly like she always did. When she looked up and saw her sister's expression, she paused, waiting without saying a word. Tawaira walked straight to her, breathless, still trying to steady herself. She told her about the unexpected call, the sudden opportunity, the praise she never thought she deserved, and the strange timing of the new funding. Her voice shook as she spoke, and her eyes kept filling up, unable to hide the rush of emotions. After she finished, she stared at Mirai with a mixture of wonder and disbelief. "What did you do?" she asked softly, almost scared of the answer. She wasn't mocking this time. She truly wanted to know. Her sister held her gaze gently, her expression calm and warm. Mirai lifted her shoulders in a tiny shrug and said in her quiet voice, "I only gave love in the way I know how. Nothing more. Nothing dramatic. Just simple truth." And somehow, that simple truth hit Tawaira harder than anything else. The moment those words reached her, something inside Tawaira broke open. All the pride she had carried, all the doubt she had defended, all the mocking she once used to hide her fear, it all melted away. Tears slipped down her cheeks before she could stop them. She sat beside Mirai and leaned into her like she hadn't done since childhood. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Thank you. I didn't believe you. But now I do." It wasn't just gratitude. It was surrender. It was realization. It was the moment she finally understood the depth of her sister's love. Tawaira held on to Mirai with shaking hands, feeling lighter than she had in years. And Mirai, in her gentle way, simply wrapped an arm around her, letting the silence fill with comfort. For the first time, Tawaira understood that real strength sometimes speaks softly, and real miracles often begin with quiet love. In the days that followed, Tawaira couldn't keep her story to herself. Everywhere she went, shops, water points, market stalls, she told people how her life had changed so suddenly, so beautifully, and how it all began with her sister's quiet act of love. She spoke with the same bold voice she had always used, but this time there was softness underneath, a deep respect that made people stop and listen. She explained how she had laughed at Mirai, how she never believed in anything she couldn't see, and how everything turned around only after her sister prayed for her. The community listened with wide eyes, surprised to hear such honesty from someone as strong-willed as Tawira. Word spread through Karamo Plains faster than she expected. People who once overlooked Nirai began to see her differently. They remembered her gentle greetings, her calm presence, her way of helping quietly without expecting anything in return. They realized that the girl they thought was too soft, too quiet, too simple had carried a strength none of them had noticed before. Mothers pointed her out to their children. Neighbors spoke about her with admiration. Some even visited her just to say they were touched by what she had done, even though she never tried to claim any praise. Nirai didn't change her behavior. She still moved with the same slow grace, still spoke in her soft tone, still smiled with humility. But now people paused when she walked by. They treated her with new respect, seeing her as someone whose kindness wasn't weakness but power. Her gentle way became a reminder to everyone that real strength didn't always shout or argue. Sometimes it whispered. As more people heard Tawira's story, a new understanding grew in the community. They realized that the ones who are mocked, underestimated, or ignored might be the ones holding the greatest love. Nirai became a quiet symbol of hope in Karamo Plains. A reminder that miracles don't always come loud or fast. Sometimes they arrive through someone who never asks for attention. Someone who gives from the heart without expecting anything back. People began saying that her calm spirit brought light to places where fear lived. They spoke of her as proof that gentle hearts can change lives. And every time someone repeated the story, they ended with the same truth. The person we laugh at might be the very person carrying the miracle we didn't know we needed. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing African tales every day.